Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and it's a great honor to present you with this next panel. This is the Unapplied Time at the Dealership panel, and it features some of the big superstars of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, including Mike Hanna, who is the CEO and founder of TrueSpot. Mike, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Hey, Ted. Excited to be back. Thanks for having me.
Mike, excited to talk about this topic, and I'm so grateful, Mike, that we were able to secure some of the folks who are on here. Let me introduce them to the roundtable right now. They are Sarah Van Tyne from Quantum 5. We've got Scott Gregg from Tucson Subaru, Sean Kingery from the Step One Automotive Group, and Randy Brinkman from Randy Brinkman Solutions. So if I may, Sarah, let me come to you with the very first question. In your opinion, Sarah, what are some of the biggest items which waste time in a dealership?
Well, Ted, one of the biggest pieces that customers consistently complain about is being on hold or not knowing what the status of their vehicle is. So in the BDC, that's often a call that we receive quite a bit, where the customer is trying to figure out the status of their vehicle, whether it's in the service drive, whether it's waiting for the repair to be finished, or if it's on hold for authorization. So speaking about TrueSpot, wouldn't it be great if you had the ability, and the BDC had the ability, and the service advisors to be able to see what was going on with the car at all steps of the process? That speeds up the communication process with our consumers, so they're able to real time maybe answer those questions or get it to the appropriate person to help answer the questions. But it all starts with having access to things like your DMS, looking for the reps to be able to check on the statuses, have consistent and clear communication with the service advisors and the parts team. So that minimizes the amount of time that the customer is on hold.
Yeah, great feedback, Sarah. Thank you so much for that. Scott, in your opinion, some of the biggest time wasters back at the dealership?
Some of the biggest time wasters would definitely be looking for cars in the parking lot, keys inadvertently misplaced or hung up incorrectly, or even occasionally mistagged. Sometimes the tag that's on the key is not what the advisor puts in the DMS. So a lot of time wasted there. Also, occasionally the car will be pulled in by the technician. He doesn't clock on the ticket. The advisor doesn't know who has the car, where the car is. So they're having to walk around. And we've got a pretty big lot here and a couple of shops, and it can be very tedious trying to find out where your car is. And same thing when they come to pick it up at night. Maybe somebody already pulled it up front, but nobody notated that. They're in the back looking for it. The car's up front. So all of those things really tend to be big time sinks.
And Scott, I got to think back, because as long as we've been in the car business, Scott, this has been, an age-old problem.
It definitely has. It's there's lot locators and everything else, and they're only as good, garbage in, garbage out. They're only as good as the information is put in. So if somebody puts the wrong tag number on, or they failed to put in the information, maybe when they moved the car or something, then you're right back to square one. And like you said, the same problem we've had for years and years and years.
Now, Mike, Scott oversees one big dealership in Tucson, and Sarah has overseen a dealership of a three dealership group. But I can't even imagine, Mike, what Sean Kingery goes through, overseeing 20-some rooftops. Sean, what's your perspective on that?
Well, I can jump on what Sarah said, and I can certainly jump on what Scott said. But, our facilities, because, we sell so many vehicles, we have off-site parking for new, used. We have centralized recon in 3 of our facilities. And as Ted, as you know, we're building a monster centralized recon facility that's going to be all encompassing one housing for the entire Florida market, not forgetting Georgia and the Alabama markets. But the time saved and unapplied time. I mean, the techs walking, hitting the remote. And by the way, the car's dead. And, for our 5 or now 6 FCA stores or Stellantis stores, guys, that panic button doesn't work until after the PDI is done. So on the new car prep, you're hunting for cars that you can't find. And by the way, as Randy said earlier, finding that one Toyota Corolla out there when it's white, there's a lot of Toyota Corollas. There's a lot of red Dodge Ram trucks. So the time you can save, if you could actually track a car from the time the vehicle gets dropped off from transport, forget the customer side, because Sarah covered that and Scott covered the other side. But on the new car prep and the used car prep, where you're looking for them on off-site parking, we rent 400 spots from the mall for 2 of our facilities. And again, if they know where the car is located and they get down to a certain spot, you can't quantify that in time, to be very honest.
Wow. Wow. A lot of things to think about there, Scott, and Sean and Sarah. Brandy, let me come to you. Unapplied time. I'm sure you have some thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, I agree with everybody. I mean, these are real problems, age-old problems. Not to mention the cost involved with keys nowadays. It's not you go to a piece of metal and stick it in the machine and make some grooves in it. I mean, there's a lot of cost involved in it. But getting to unapplied time and wasted time, I think it all starts with a culture in the store, first of all. And my question is there a lack of clarity? I'm a huge believer in you've got to define purpose. Once you define the what, the how can become a lot easier. So unapplied time, as we would financially think about it with our technicians, what do you measure? What do you manage? Just your culture in general. If hours per RO averages and effective labor rate averages are what you push for in pay plans and meetings, expect unapplied time. Because as an advisor, if I've been asked to hit a certain hours per RO or hit a certain effective labor rate, defection gets me there faster than anything else. I've always said, if you want to raise your hours per RO and your effective labor rate, close on Saturdays, tell new customers to stay away for 4 or 5 years and overcharge anybody else who dares to come see you, and forget your MPIs. Because like for Scott in a Subaru franchise, which is a maintenance franchise, his numbers are never going to compare to a domestic store. So what are you after first? For me, it's about total hours. So total hours falls into what both Scott, Sean, and Sarah have already said. What are we looking for today? If we are looking for total hours, have you defined purpose? Average tech wants to turn 10 hours in an 8-hour day. I have 12 techs. Put a 0 behind the number of techs. My goal today is 120 hours. I have 4 advisors. Do they know to sell 30 hours today and close 30? Have we even gone that far? And then a piece of that is your first-time fill rate in parts. If you have a bad first-time fill rate, you're never going to get your hours. California, unapplied time in California is everything, because you have to pay a flat rate tech for hours not turned. Quick math, double minimum wage, $30 an hour for what they don't do. So you've got to be on top of hours every day. And what keeps you from doing that? Lost keys, can't find the cars, not selling the hours, poor fill rates in parts department. These are all things that will just absolutely tear you up.
So this this concept of lost time and wasted time, Randy, really carries through to the entire dealership, and there's some major consequences resulting from that.
Well,
Mike,
there's some real financial losses that you can actually
yeah,
see. It's not speculation. You unapplied time. You go to unapplied time or adjusted cost of labor, depending upon what franchise statement you're looking at. You won't see a sale price. You'll just see a negative gross. Well, this is not calculated at effective labor or anything. This is calculated at tech time. So you can see how many hours did I not get paid. So basically you bought a part, which is an invisible part, which is tech time, and you've thrown that invisible time away at cost. So you take the number of hours that represents, multiply it by your effective labor rate, and cut that in half. You can usually almost increase your net profit by 50% if you could just get rid of half of this unapplied time.
Mike, when you and I first spoke earlier this year, one of the first things I thought, and I mentioned it to you as well, is the time as accounting for labor, for the technician's time, and hunting down cars and so on. Now, Mike, you've come up with a solution that's actually in place right now that you've got at dealerships. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, and I love just hearing the feedback. And so one of the things that, interesting for us is that time savings. And so as we have started really working on the fixed ops side with our our solution. We originally were working on, and we still do on the front line. So we're tracking cars and keys and lot management and that, but time is not nearly, I'm not going to say it's not as valuable, but it's not as tracked. And so it becomes much more of an acute pain point in fixed stops when you're talking about tech time and those sort of things. So that's been a great learning for us because we can apply the value of time a lot more specifically when we're talking to our service customers. But effectively, what we do is really try to solve a lot of these pain points and do it in a really seamless way. So we have a system, a campus-based system at real-time location of tracking cars and keys and tools and really anything else that moves at a dealership that could get legs and start to walk. We know where it's at. And so, it can be pinpoint accuracy down to the service bay level indoors and in relative, within a few parking spots or so outdoors. And so that gives that real-time visibility, not only to the location of where everything's at. If a service tech or somebody in BDC, a customer calls, hey, yeah, within seconds, I can see, hey, that car is actually in the wash bay. So, hey, we're probably 20 minutes from the car being able to pull up into the service drive and ready to come get it, sort of thing. So having that real-time visibility of where everything is at is kind of just the simple part of what we do. But then we like to take it a step further and really apply what we call geointelligence to the location. So if that car is in that particular service bay, then we know that it's being worked. How long has it been there? It's been there for 2 hours. If it leaves that service bay and then it goes into the wash bay, like I mentioned, then okay, if that's the last step in the process to be customer ready, then we can send an alert at that point in time to say, hey, this car is now ready, so the status can change. The service advisor can be alerted, and that customer hopefully doesn't have to call. They can be proactively alerted that, hey, this car is ready, and just reduce the call time, reduce the wait time, reduce the frustration, keep everybody much more attuned to what's going on. So that's really the cool part, I think, of what we do.
Now, Mike, a dealership group like Sean Kingery, that's in 3 different states with 20 some rooftops, and I know really likes the fact that they can visually track a lot of their KPIs and measurements. Are you able to help a group like that that's spread out, that's got so many locations and rooftops? And like Sean said, they're putting in this huge mega recon center right now. It's a big project of theirs.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the original pain points we solved. And so vehicle location, key location, whether it's off lots, even parking malls, we've set up even a solar system at a parking mall in Los Angeles for some of our dealer partners to be able to track those cars and keys when they're there on site, where they park the car, take the keys back to the dealership. But effectively, the system we build allows us to very quickly, easily deploy and solve basically any dealer use case as it relates to tracking cars and keys. And a lot of big dealer groups like Sean mentioned, where there's big recon centralized systems where 10, 15, 20 rooftops could be pouring into that centralized recon system. So our recon product, as well as that car and key tracking, all works together really seamlessly to make everybody's life easier and really kind of transform, I think, how operations are flowing. And so the visibility, the accountability, it makes everybody's life a lot easier. We hear from a feedback perspective, like just not having to go through the hassle of trying to find the cars and keys. We know where they're at physically, we know where they're at in step and those sort of things. So
Now, Sean, I imagine there's a lot of questions that you might have for Mike, and not being in your shoes, I can't imagine what all those questions or some of those questions might be. But if you've got a couple of those questions, maybe this is an opportunity for Mike to answer that for us.
Yeah, I mean, so having never seen the product and obviously extremely intrigued in it, is it user friendly? How does an advisor use it? How does somebody like Sarah at the BDC use it? I mean, because they are getting status phone calls as much as we want to say they don't get them. They get them all the time. How user friendly is it for a used car manager to use it? How friendly is it for a general sales manager to use it for his new car inventory?
I love that question. That's one of my favorite questions because from a focus perspective on what and how to use the system, it has to be super easy. It has to be intuitive, has to be easy to use from all different perspectives. And so, there's so many jobs and so many people doing different things at a dealership. So just from the service advisor perspective, and I'll hold up maybe a visual aid here, it's just a hang tag. And, a lot of dealerships use these for car hats or other for us. And what we learned really quickly as we started to work on the fixed stop side more and more was that the velocity is moving so fast. Cars are moving in and out a lot quicker than obviously you do on the front line. So how can you make it just keep it, KISS, super simple, And so this is one of the ways we do that, where this is basically a color red tied to a particular service advisor. 133 is the RO. So that's in DMS and whatever the case is. So this just goes on and off. It's completely reusable. And so the system is tied together already. So all the service advisor has to do to tag this and know where the car and keys at is just put this on the rearview mirror. And then if there's words I like to say, carabiners and grommets and these sort of things, but the keys can be hooked to another one here as well. So these can be tied together with a corresponding key service tag. And there's a little radio transponder that connects to both, so you know exactly where the key of the car's at. So that's the operational side. The other side is how easy is it to use. And so whether it's the iOS or the Android app, super simple, or the interface on the web. So just whatever and whoever is using the tool. If you're mobile, easy to use on a tablet. If you're at a desktop, and that's where typically you're sitting and running operations, then like a BDC person, for example, really easy, intuitive, and easy to find car and key just within seconds.
Wow, very strong. Sarah, I'm thinking you might have some questions from your perspective, because Sean is right. Those status calls are still going to be coming in no matter what. As we sit here today, my car is in the shop, and you know, I haven't got an update yet, Sarah, so I'm tempted to pick up the phone and, you know, call or text. So Sarah, what do you think, and what questions would you have?
You know, there's been several that have come to mind just as Sean and Mike were talking, and I have really two that I would love to get some feedback on. But, you know, first, so an organization like Sean's, you're talking multi-store rooftops. Is there the capability where you'd have a centralized login for more than one location if you were part of an auto mall or a larger dealer group? And then my second question with that is, what kind of reporting do you have where you can gauge that efficiency amongst your stores? Can you see like, wow, look, my Toyota store is doing an excellent job at saving time versus, okay, I see over here my Mercedes-Benz store, there's something going on here when it goes from this process to this process. Does that make sense, or do I have an opportunity for improved efficiency? Those are really my two questions, Mike.
Yeah, those are good ones. Yeah, for sure. So the first one from larger dealer groups where you have multiple rooftops, and then you also have a corporate view from that perspective. Yeah, so there are, from a login perspective, and actually one of the features that's been requested for us for a while, really serving some of our larger dealer group customers, is just that. So that's actually releasing, this month in May. So you can have that tiered level access. And so absolutely being able to look at it more from a corporate view or store by store within the tool. And then the second, so I think that relates to reporting and looking at visually what's happening, having an understanding from whether it's reconditioning or other things, as far as how long did I have that car, how long was it in each of those steps, identifying bottlenecks through that process. And so our reporting is quite robust. And there's different levels of the reporting, but being able to see those things and make improvements is really what it's all about at the end of the day. And so what's interesting about our system, and one of the things from a recon perspective applies to fixed ops as well, is being able to, because of that location, have real data that shows the time and step and the time through the process. And so because we can correlate location to an actual step, to a service bay, to a wash bay, to a third-party vendor like a body shop, for example, you get obviously real-time visibility to that, but you also have cars that don't get forgotten. So sometimes a car maybe gets parked out back because it's waiting for a part, and maybe that part showed up and somebody just completely forgot about it. The part's been there for 2 weeks, and I've heard that that story many times. The system is always tracking that because of that location. You have live views and real-time intelligence and alerts. That's keeping everybody on track, for lack of a better term, of moving cars through the system and taking and applying time instead of unapplied time, I guess.
Wow. And Mike, by the way, thank you for answering these questions. You're getting a couple of them from different scenarios, but I like it because these are the questions that, Sean, our audience would have as well, right? Scott, Greg, what are some of the thoughts that come to your mind?
A couple of things right off the bat. Are there any kind of limitations or range for instance, like we have a loan car fleet, and if I wanted these in our loan car so I could have an idea of where they're at, is there any kind of range or limitation as to how far you could track something? And then is there like a battery or what operates these? Is there potential for that to go dead at some point or?
Yeah, great question, Scott. On the range, so a couple things there. The system that I'm talking about now, they can give us we call hyper precision location, especially indoor, down to the service base. So that's a campus-based system. If a vehicle does leave the lot, especially for service loaners, we have GPS cellular solutions, so we can plug in an OBD2 device and be able to track loaner fleets and all of those wherever they go at any time. And when those come back, we can give alerts that, hey, they broke the geofence, this loaner car is back on campus and that sort of thing. So both of those, we have a multimodal technology suite to be able to, whatever the use case is, we can apply it, and it all works within our system from a technology perspective. And the second one for the battery, the campus-based system, the little tags, and there's a little triangle inside this one, for example, has a 3-year battery life, and it's a replaceable battery. The system also knows the battery level of each of these devices, and we have a system that also monitors those for our dealerships. And if a battery goes dead, we're not going to let you put it in or tag another asset to it. So we work to make sure that, hey, the 3-year battery life, so it's a long time before you have to worry about it. But we know they will die after a while, and so very easy to monitor that within the TrueSpot system and make sure you can have 2032 is usually, as well as little coin cells, easy to pop in and out to change them out. Great questions.
Wow. Randy, a lot of questions here for Mike, and I know you've had time to think about certainly the unapplied time and the consequences. What's going through your mind, Randy?
Well, right now, my head is exploding because I'm thinking about solutions. Now, think about the average dealer's lot right now. It's a BB and a boxcar. I mean, they're empty. So right now would be a time to define purpose and set clarity. I'm sitting here thinking, you take both Scott and Sean's situation. Scott has a very large fixed operations department. I could see 4 zones, and this would help Sarah. So now, if a car is written up and it's waiting to go in the shop, it's in zone 1. When it's in the shop, it's in zone 2. When it's finished with the shop, it's in zone 3. And after it comes out of car wash, it's in zone 4. Now, I work 410s, for example. That's where your biggest problem lies in there, because I don't like to make appointments. I like to make convenient drop-off times. That's just something that we like to do. It's not an appointment for the day. It's a convenient drop-off for the day sometime. Because when you work 410s, 3:30, 4 o'clock, the customer is calling Sarah and say, what's up with my car? And you say, well, we haven't even gotten to the shop today, and they go through the roof. We haven't defined purpose of what it's a convenient drop-off time for you to talk to an advisor for sometime today. Well, Sarah could see on the call, if it's in zone 2, it's in process, it's in the shop. If it's in zone 3, it's completed, but we haven't washed it yet. And if it's in zone 4, it's completed. Where's the paperwork? Because this is a time waster, is we haven't completed the paperwork yet. Now I know where to go just because of the 4 zones. I could see, and you could do it now because you have so much asphalt. You don't have to worry about moving stuff down. You can get good at it before the supply starts to come back in again.
Randy, you always give us a whole lot to think about. Before I go to Sarah, Mike, what are your thoughts?
No, I love it. Randy just defined a word that we made up, which is called geointelligence. And so understanding that geospatial elements of the campus, and every time we onboard a customer, we build the campus network and what we call micro geofences to do just that. So zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, because they all mean something. And more times than not, the location means something. And so that applied with process, applied with location, and that geospatial awareness can create that real-time visibility to say the status of the vehicle. Not only physically do I know where it's at, but hey, paperwork is not done yet. We're here. We're looking at another X hours or whatever the case is to set the customer's expectations. And so I love it. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Sarah, over in the BDC, could this help your agents and yourself in being more efficient with the consumer?
Oh, tremendously. I mean, think about this. Every single time a status update comes into your BDC, that's a lost opportunity for your BDC to make money. If you want your BDC to be able to make phone calls and be calling your customers to remind them of upcoming service visits, talk to them about their special order parts, go ahead and get them scheduled before their vehicle may be due for service. You know, every single time a status call comes in, that is taking away from their opportunity to really serve your customers better.
And with that is more wasted time as well. So
Yes.
yeah, makes a lot of sense. Mike, you've put all this together and you've got it in fixed operations, you've got it in variable, it's in dealership. Mike, what are your thoughts looking out at the landscape, some of the things we're hearing now? Where do you see this going? How do you see it growing? Because I could see every dealership, whether it's a standalone like Scott, whether it's a dealer group like Sean, I see every group wanting to, being able to save that time and save that wasted time because it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we think so and hope so. And I mentioned before the word culture. And so we've heard that from our dealer partners as we've implemented that. Now we've become a part of their culture. Where we're going in fixed ops, and it's I think somewhat similar to what we've done on the variable ops side, is just integrate with as many partners as possible, because that location we can feed it back into DMS. We can feed it into the service drive products. We can integrate back and forth, which is something we're really keen on. I think we've done probably over 30 integrations with all different aspects and all kind of companies, whether they're key companies, whether obviously the DMS, the inventory companies, and multiple others, just to make everything work together better. And that's really one of the key things, no pun intended, that we're focused on, is how can we help systems work together, talk together, and just make life simpler and more easy for our dealer partners. So that's one of the biggest things we're focused on going forward.
Mike, when a dealership or dealer group contacts you, typically, where do you start?
Hello, and then you try to find out a little bit about the pain points. And so if it's I would say just to call inbound, tell us how you heard about us, tell us what your pain points are, and kind of go from there. So we first and foremost, we want to learn as much as we can about your operations, your dealership, because the system and the solutions they do the same things, I would say, as far as solving problems, but every dealer is unique. From our what we've seen, operations are always a little bit different. Obviously, every campus is unique, so we're dealing with the physical campus and understanding kind of the geospatial elements of that. So we want to learn as much as we can about all of that, and then figure out how we best apply technology and also the partner ecosystem. What DMS are using, what are using in the service drive, and so we work obviously with all those companies and different levels of integration that always keep improving and going forward, but figure out how that works together to best provide value. So,
Sean, I'll come to you. What do you see as the potential for being able to save this kind of time and being able to do it the way Mike tells us we can do it today?
I see it on a multi-platform level, Ted, to be honest with you. I mean, I see it on the new side. I see it on the used side. I see it on the customer-friendly facing side of where the vehicle's at on pickup and delivery, especially on a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock when all hell's breaking loose, to try to keep it as clean as I can. And I mean, I think there's a huge side. I see a huge side for Sarah's BDC side, because with Sarah's help, we've obviously built a monster BDC as well. And to the zone idea that Randy had, I mean, there's a multi-tier avenue that this could go for sure very quickly.
Yeah, I see it. Mike, if our dealers want to reach out to you and get more information and take the next step with TrueSpot, what should they do?
I'll just say to keep it easy, Mike at TrueSpot.com. Send me an email. I'm happy to talk and get you in touch with my sales team and really just learn more about how we can help out. But yeah, Mike at TrueSpot.com is probably the easiest thing.
Wow. Mike Hanna at TrueSpot, everybody, leading the way with new technology that is changing the way we are going to be operating our dealerships and saving us a whole lot of time and a whole lot of money. So I want to thank the panel today, Scott Gregg at Tucson Subaru, Sarah Van Tyne at Quantum 5. Thank you both so much. Randy Brinkman at Randy Brinkman Solutions. Randy, you always make us think. I love it. I love it. Sean Kingery at the Step One Automotive Group. Thank you so much. And Mike Hanna at TrueSpot. On behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate all your time.
Thank you, guys.
Mike Hanna from TrueSpot and the panel here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.